Well, hey guys, hope you guys are all doing well. The Shui Fabrics case deals with something a lot of international companies deal with. Ray Betzel's a general manager in a joint venture between a Chinese factory and an American textile company where they want to use, cheap Chinese labor costs. Labor is cheaper in China. Just they were to take advantage. However, the company's been doing pretty good over the past 5 years. But the problem is that, Ray Betzel, there's Shui Wei. Shui Wei is the general manager in China. Ray Betzel works in America, or not in America, I'm sorry, he's an American. But his American bosses don't like the return on investment they're getting, which is currently only about 5%. They're looking for something closer to 20% or higher, otherwise they want to pull out of China. But, it's hard to get a higher ROI without disappointing local officials who, according to Chinese foreign policy, don't want to really get too much outside influence.
Okay, well, the first problem actually seems apparent to me, and that would be that the crisis between cutting labor costs and preserving corporate social responsibility by maintaining those jobs is run amok. And basically this tumult between the presidents, or Paul Danvers over Rocky Rivers, the president company over Shui Fabrics, and the first and best solution I feel that just comes to mind is to keep the 3,000 workers, because we want to keep and maintain that corporate social responsibility. I feel as though the local governments are really enjoying the fact that we've employed so many people and where the unemployment rate is so low. And just simply cut their work hours in half. That way we'll have enough money to go ahead and invest in these newer technologies so that our return on investments could increase.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting trying to get a higher ROI with better technology.
Definitely. I feel as though it's definitely... Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, and I feel as though it's definitely better than our alternative solution to cut the workforce in half from 3,000 to 1,500, because that's overall, I feel will just be too much backlash. I feel like the people can handle a pay cut, as opposed to a job cut. Exactly.
It's true.
The second problem really is that the Ohio-based company isn't reaching their desired return on investment. There are a couple of causes to this. I would say the deep problem is that there are just two different climates. In the Chinese atmosphere, business climate, they don't want American companies coming in, using their cheap labor, and basically exploiting their economy for Western gain. And the other element of that is just that the work model in China is different than that of America. So two options as far as tackling this problem are implementing new technology to make the production more efficient, and second is cutting the labor hours of the workers that are there. What do you think about a blend between?
Well, you definitely, with cutting the hours, just like with problem one, you're gonna encounter those same problems with having a backlash or an uproar within the community, because you're taking people's livelihood away at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, this company needs to progress. And if productivity is low, then what they need to do in order to do that is, I feel as though, well, what were you going to say?
Right, just a blend of those two options.
Exactly.
It's almost like the best of both worlds. You get more return on investment because your labor costs are down, and you also get to maintain jobs, even though you can't please everyone. And at the end of the day, this is a business, and we have to proceed and progress and make the progress that
I definitely agree, because this will definitely reduce our labor costs, which at the end of the day will increase our bottom line.
Okay.
So I definitely agree with that.
All right.
While maintaining social responsibility.
I think we wrap that one up.
Yeah. So problem three?
Everybody agrees?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the third problem is the fact that the ideas success misaligned. I kind of feel like the U.S. company expects so much more than the Chinese company can give them. Given that they're working on a certain salary, that's all they can do.
I'm sorry, allow me to interject. That's kind of interrelated with that problem, because the fact that they're on two different planes, and one is working on increasing their ROI, and the other is just strictly it's directed towards corporate social responsibility. There's clearly a miscommunication between China and America. So what I feel is though they need to do, at least on the Chinese spectrum, since it is since the American one is the parent company, I feel as though they need to get back to the initial mission statement.
Okay.
And they need to discuss what it is that this company is actually based upon.
Right.
And
There to do.
Exactly. And then they can sustain themselves or move or plan accordingly from there, once they get back to their bases and really understand their foundation, because it seems as though they don't.
Right. So we just aligning those two ideologies as far as what we're here for and what the goal here is.
Exactly.
I agree. I definitely
Exactly.
Yeah, I think another alternative that they could set up a system of just conference calls.
Okay.
You know, like one of the biggest problems is like that they're not communicating well. They don't know what they expect of each other. So in these conference calls, they can talk about their expectations, you know, what their goals are, how they plan on reaching these goals.
And even better, video telecons now. You have Twitter. You
Yeah.
have
Right, yeah,
So,
okay.
So it wouldn't cost them a penny.
Exactly. That seems.
And I feel like it's the most cost-efficient solution. And it's just straightforward, gets to the problem. You know, it's like if you don't communicate enough, so bam, let's meet all the time.
That's
That's
problem
right.
3 right there.
That's wrapped up.
Well, gentlemen, the first question the book posed verbatim reads, how would you characterize the main economic, legal, political, and socio-cultural differences influencing the relationship between the partners in Shui Fabrics? Essentially, the main economic difference I wanted to point out was the fact that the American partner, Ray Betzel, and President Paul Danzel really was focused on gaining more than a 5% return on investment. Whereas Shui Wei, the Chinese-American partner, was not. I believe the problem they stated was that the two goals, two targets, two ideals weren't aligned. I believe the problem was that Paul Danzel didn't take into consideration the fact that Chinese business operations occur way differently. So essentially, they didn't take into consideration the difference in the socioeconomic. No, excuse me.
Paul, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but also, yeah, Paul Denver really takes a much more scientific approach, whereas Shui Wei and Ray Betzel were actually being there on the front lines and seeing just how the detriment that the loss of those jobs would cause to that already. Exactly, and it's already not third world, but it's already very destitution is high there. You know, with a very high unemployment rate, it's already hard for them to sustain themselves.
Right.
So just taking a humanistic perspective, you know, they see that and they're applying that to what they're doing with their jobs. So ROI is not even necessarily on their minds because they're worried about lives.
So focusing on the question and just making sure we cover it completely. What do we really need to answer from what the book poses?
So essentially, one, the economic differences were American companies focused on return on investment, whereas the Shui Wei, the Chinese partners, focused on providing jobs for a population who sustains an unemployment rate of close to 20%. Also, the Shui Fabrics operation in China was more concerned with really abiding by the socio-political standards of the land, whereas in America, government doesn't do too much to impede on the operations of business to the extent that. So those are the main economic and socio-cultural differences that influence the relationship between the partners of Shui Fabrics.
Definitely.
To come to a consensus
Yeah.
about really what, like we were, it's very connected with what we
Correct.
came up with as problem 3. Consensus about what their goals are and how to really approach and effectively handle each of their goals.
Third question answered.
And the last question in the book that the book poses.
The last question really talks about how would someone go about doing this differently if they were Ray Betzel as opposed to the joint venture which he did. And something that I thought about was licensing to the Chinese Shui Fabrics. What this will allow is for us to decrease the amount that we're investing in Shui Fabrics, but at the same time, we're kind of giving them more control over our company. So in that regard, we don't have that much control over in that region. However, like we said, the main goal is to increase our return on investment. With a smaller investment, it's definitely more possible to gain a larger or our desired 20% return on investment.
So you're saying if we choose a licensing agreement, we wouldn't have to build operations, we wouldn't have to pay for a physical plant in a foreign land, and you could just, and it sounds like,
our stake in the company and Shui Fabrics.
I couldn't hear you.
We can still hold our stake in Shui Fabrics.
Okay. Yeah, no, yeah.
Exactly. I like
Sounds
that.
good.
I like that.
That sounds good.
And I mean, so sorry to interrupt, but also that way we are we won't be very, we won't be imposing as much on Shui Fabrics, and they may go about, conducting their managerial, I guess, ways, the way that would be best for
Right.
their employees and so on.
Right, and then operating as almost a Chinese function, they could make the profits that they want, and that would be going to us. It wouldn't be like an American company coming in and exploiting them. It would be them working in their own country and being as successful as they can be.
And not only that, but speaking from the perspective of